Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who have their natal Venus in the third house. And the third house is the house of communication. And, it's very interesting because I want to give a shout out to advancedastrology.com for helping me compile this list. And one of the things that they mentioned about the third house is that, I'll just quote, the tools that enable us to communicate, telephone, internet, books, pen, etc. That's exactly what they wrote. And I thought, wow, that's brilliant, because I knew that there was a connection between the internet and the third house. And I, assumed it had to do with communication, but I like that they said tools because, of course, we can still use the pen. That hasn't become obsolete or anything like that. But the point being that these areas add to the connection that Venus can make when it's in this house. And I actually just thought of a new one, which is meeting someone online. I'm surprised they didn't bring that up. Because Venus can be your love life, and certainly the internet can be a way people meet one another in this day and age. So, the third house is ruled by Gemini, and its ruler is Mercury. So if we think of that sign and what it represents, Venus, which is the goddess of love and beauty and is all about pleasure, takes pleasure in third house or Gemini types of activities. So speaking about speech, somebody with this placement will have a natural diplomacy in terms of how they speak. So when they speak, they're not going to antagonize people. They're going to actually make people receptive to them. They won't alienate them. And this can also be the case where they are able to see another person's point of view. So they make great mediators. And of course, these kinds of things can actually be something that you do for a living. One thing that they didn't mention is the actual speaking voice. I would think that Venus in the third house could make the voice very melodic, that the person may be good at singing as well. And I might have read that somewhere in the past because I read so much. Speaking of which, you may be in love with books because Venus takes pleasure in these intellectual activities. And so this idea of the life of the mind, and, why do some people seem to just be absorbed with learning and reading, and other people are almost adverse to it and they don't even want to read? Especially nowadays, it seems like less people are interested in reading actual books, or even if they're ebooks, people seem to like hearing things more than actually reading them. But reading them is another way to reading books or information is another avenue to receiving it. Of course, when you hear things, you can learn too. I'm not saying that. But there's just like this special relationship between people and their books. And can you tell that I'm a bookworm? I was going to say an earthworm. I don't know. And I don't have this placement. So obviously you don't have to have this placement to love books. But this can give you that real pleasure in any kind of intellectual pursuit, even if you're doing it just for fun. So for instance, joining a book club, and Venus can be socializing. So that would probably be one of the biggest attractions to you in this vein. But, sometimes people, as they get older, they, especially when they become senior citizens, they, at least in the United States, they have the opportunity to sit in on college classes. They call it auditing for free. And I remember having an English literature class, and there was an older gentleman sitting there. And I think he was friends with the professor, but still, I mean, just these lifelong learners who just, they find it pleasurable. It's not that they're just doing it for self-improvement. They actually find joy in it. The way that you express yourself in speech can be poetic, and you may love poetry because poetry is a type of writing that is especially artistic. You may have talent as a writer in general and as a teacher. Because and they didn't explain that because I know that you would probably be very inclined to do something in that area. But I think the talent comes from the way that you express yourself. Because if a person expresses themselves in a very pleasing sort of way to others, that is going to be received very well. And so, we all have our favorite teachers or professors that just knew how to express themselves in a way that we were attracted to. Yeah, Venus is the attractor, so that must have to do with why the person would be a good teacher because, obviously teaching involves a lot of communication. And by the way, the third house, although they didn't specify it, is connected to lower levels of education. So the opposite house, the ninth house, is connected to higher levels. So that would be college, bachelor's, master's, and PhD. And the third house can be elementary school and so on. Even I think high school would be in this house as well. Now, this is in terms of like who you're attracted to. You might be attracted to brainy types of people. I think though that if you are attracted to somebody who's intelligent, I really do believe that they would have to express their intelligence in a rather pleasing sort of a way for you to really be interested. So I don't think that you would just naturally be attracted to somebody who was like an engineer or something dryly, intelligent. I think that somebody who really stimulated you would probably be the type of intellectual that and actually that's who I consider to be an intellectual, those types of people, not just somebody who has the brain power to do things. Somebody can be an engineer and not be an intellectual, in other words, because they may have the raw material, but they're just not really that interested in, the life of the mind of refined pursuits. Venus is refined, okay, refinement. So the gravitation towards reading material is going to be, I think, literature versus, a bestseller that is, very, it could be even very crude and salacious and that sort of thing. You're going to be attracted to poetic language, people who are able to write in elegant ways, because you're elegant in your intellectual output. So that's what you're attracted to as well. You might meet your partner in your local area. The third house can be your local area through relatives. And also, they said like, I don't know if they said educational settings. They said something along those lines. Let me see if I can find it. I don't even think they said, yeah, they didn't even They just said education. So maybe if you're a teacher, it's a fellow teacher and the faculty. And they said, in the street, but I would just say like the local area. And also, like I said, online perhaps. Maybe it's even like some kind of a shared interest that, you're both interested in a certain writer or something like that, or a genre like science fiction or something. You might be popular in your hood. You might like to dish the dirt. You might like to gossip. That is definitely a Gemini trait. And the other thing too that I wanted to talk about, with Venus in Gemini is that flirtatious nature, because this is like, I said Venus, did I say Venus in Gemini? This is like having Venus in Gemini to have Venus in the third house, and Venus in Gemini can be flirtatious. Now, it's important to note that being flirtatious doesn't mean that somebody is unfaithful. It can simply be that they just enjoy that kind of banter with someone, and they can leave it at that. So, for instance, if your Venus is in Scorpio, you might be capable of flirting with somebody else, but your heart belongs to the person that you're in love with, and you would never do that. You would never cheat or anything like that. Let me see. Have I covered all the ground? Yeah, I think I have. Okay, well, I hope that resonated. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.